In our last stop, the road carried us through Ohio, from the lantern-lit darkness of Moonville Tunnel to the restless halls of the Ridges and the cursed quiet of Helltown. It was a journey shaped by industry, isolation, and places that refused to stay buried. Now, the road continues west into Indiana. At first glance, Indiana feels quieter, flatter, more ordinary. Small towns stretch out between long highways, farmlands roll on for miles, and history seems neatly tucked away behind brick storefronts and country lines. But beneath that calm surface are places where time stalled, where tragedy lingered, and where something unseen still moves through the dark. Tonight, we'll explore 3 of Indiana's most overlooked haunted locations: a remote cemetery hidden deep in the woods, a railroad tunnel where voices echo long after the trains stop running, and a small-town theater where something still waits behind the curtain. These are not tourist attractions. They're places where most people pass without ever knowing what they've left behind. Let's cross deeper into Indiana and uncover the ghost that never left. Stepp Cemetery. Tucked away in the wooded hills near Martinsville lies Stepp Cemetery, one of Indiana's most unsettling burial grounds, and one of its most isolated. There are no nearby neighborhoods, no steady traffic, and no sense of civilization once you reach the tree line. The road leading in narrows quickly, giving way to dense forest that seems to swallow sound. By the time the cemetery comes into view, it feels less like a destination and more like something stumbled upon by accident. Stepp Cemetery dates back to the early 1800s and was used by pioneer families who moved far from towns, churches, or medical care. Many of the graves belong to children, marked by small stones worn nearly smooth by time. Others list names that no longer exist anywhere else. Families erased from records, remembered only here. Visitors often report an immediate change in atmosphere when stepping into the clearing. The woods fall quiet, the air feels heavier, and even during daylight hours, many describe an unshakable sense of being watched. Some claim to hear footsteps moving through the leaves just beyond the graves, slow, deliberate steps that stop when acknowledged. Others report whispers carried on the wind, too close to ignore, but impossible to understand. One of the most common stories involves shadowy figures seen standing among the headstones or watching from the tree line. These figures don't move suddenly or aggressively. Instead, they linger, partially formed, dark against the darker woods, disappearing only when stared at directly. Several visitors have described difficulty leaving the area. Paths they used to enter suddenly feels unfamiliar, longer than before. Panic sets in as landmarks vanish, only for the exit to reappear unexpectedly behind them, as though the cemetery itself shifted while they weren't looking. Skeptics attribute these experiences to disorientation, wildlife, or the psychological impact of isolation. But that explanation fails to account for the consistency of reports spanning decades, from many people who have never heard of Stepp Cemetery's reputation beforehand. Paranormal investigators have recorded unexplained EMF fluctuations and temperature drops throughout the clearing. Equipment malfunctions are common, and batteries drain unusually fast. Some claim to hear voices responding to questions, not loudly, just enough to register. Stepp Cemetery doesn't rely on legends of violent deaths or dramatic hauntings. Its power comes from something quieter, a persistent presence that seems aware of visitors and not entirely pleased by them. For many, one visit is enough. Tunnelton Tunnel. Hidden beneath rolling hills in Lawrence County lies Tunnelton Tunnel, a long abandoned railroad passage that once connected Indiana's rural towns to the outside world. Constructed in the early 1900s, the tunnel was part of a railway line used to transport coal, timber, and supplies through southern Indiana. For years, trains thundered through its stone walls day and night, but when the rail traffic declined, the tunnel was abandoned. left to darkness, silence, and decay. Stretching over 700 feet long, Tunnelton Tunnel is almost perfectly straight, creating a deep, uninterrupted view into darkness from either entrance. During the day, light fades quickly inside. At night, the darkness feels absolute. Visitors often report hearing footsteps echoing from deep within the tunnel, slow, steady sounds that don't match their own movements. Others describe distant voices calling out, sometimes in whispers, sometimes loud enough to echo off the stone. One of the most chilling reports comes from those who claim to hear a train approaching, the low rumble, the vibration through the ground, only for the sound to abruptly vanish. Paranormal investigators have captured EVPs that appear to respond to direct questions, along with the sudden cold spots that move through the tunnel like a presence passing by. Several have reported feeling touched, a hand brushing against their arm, a pressure against their back, despite no one standing behind them. Local legends suggest that workers died during the tunnel's construction, though official records are scarce. Others believe the hauntings are tied to train accidents that occurred nearby, their victims trapped between life and death within the stone walls. Even skeptics admit that the tunnel creates an overwhelming sense of unease. Sounds distort, depth perception falters, and time seems to stretch strangely while inside, minutes feeling much longer than they should. Many visitors refuse to walk the tunnel alone. Some won't enter at all, because once you're inside, the darkness just doesn't surround you. It feels like it's listening. The Fowler Theater. In the small town of Fowler stands a modest historic building with an unsettling reputation, the Fowler Theater. Built in the early 1900s, the theater served as a central gathering place for the community, hosting live performances, films, and public events for generations. From the outside, it looks unremarkable. Inside, however, many believe it is anything but empty. Staff and visitors report frequent unexplained activity, especially after hours. Lights flicker on when the building is closed, doors open and shut on their own, and footsteps are often heard moving through the aisles when no one is present. One of the most common sightings is that of a shadowy figure seen near the stage or balcony. The figure doesn't speak, it simply stands, watching, before fading away. Some believe the spirit belongs to a former projectionist who spent much of their life in the building. Others suggest the hauntings may be tied to the theater's long history of emotional energy, joy, anticipation, disappointment, all layered into the walls over time. Paranormal investigators have captured unexplained voices through EVP sessions, including what sounds like an applause and laughter during empty nights. Cold spots have been recorded near the stage and backstage areas, and equipment malfunctions are common. Employees report the feeling of being watched while cleaning or locking up. Several refuse to be alone inside the building after dark. Unlike abandoned locations, the Fowler Theater remains a part of the community, a place where people still gather, and that may be what makes its haunting feel so personal. Because whatever remains inside the theater hasn't been forgotten. It's still watching the show. From the silent woods of Stepp Cemetery to the echoing darkness of Tunnelton Tunnel and the lingering presence inside the Fowler Theater, Indiana's haunted places reveal a quieter kind of fear, one rooted in isolation, memory, and things left behind. These aren't legends meant to draw crowds. They're places that exist just beyond notice, waiting patiently as the world moves on around them. But the road doesn't end here. Next, the highway stretches southwest into New Mexico, a land where desert hides old sins, where abandoned churches stand miles from the nearest town, and where the line between folklore and fear has always been dangerously thin. From forgotten settlements swallowed by sand to places where the dead are said to answer back, New Mexico carries a kind of darkness that doesn't need shadows to survive. Which of Indiana's haunted places unsettle you the most? The cemetery, the tunnel, or the theater? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to keep traveling with us. Until next time, travel safe, and remember, the road ahead is haunted.